With me today is Jerry Roth, the author of 24/7 Caregiver. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you, Bruce.
For the audience, you should know that this is the second of a series of interviews with Jerry Roth, the author of 24/7 Caregiver, as well as other contributors on the topic of Alzheimer's and other dementias. So thank you for being with us, Jerry. I enjoyed our first chat where we introduced the readers to your recently published book, 24/7 Caregiver. And it's the subtitle is The Everyday Battle with Alzheimer's. And you read two beautiful poems to introduce us to the book. And it occurred to me that if someone wanted to get the book for themselves and dig more deeply into the poetry, which is also highly instructive. I mean, it's beautiful poetry, but it's also instructive on the subject matter of Alzheimer's and other dementias, they wouldn't know how to get the book. So can you tell the audience where they can purchase the book, Jerry?
Absolutely. To purchase my book, go to BeyondDementiaCoalition.org. That's BeyondDementiaCoalition.org and follow the prompts, and that will take you to the publisher, and then you should receive the book shortly after that. You know, Bruce, I'm so proud as you are, as we've talked about it, to be on the board of directors of Beyond Dementia Coalition. And so proud because the monies that are donated go directly toward activities to help people in the community. I'd like to tell everybody that 50% of the profits from the sale of my book will go directly to Beyond Dementia Coalition. And as you and I sit in the board meetings monthly, we look at the programs that are actually out there, you and I participating in many of them. And to give people an idea, within the last couple of months, we have trained over 100, 104, I think it is, all county sheriff on what is Alzheimer's, what is dementia, what do you do when you see that and you recognize it? How do you give a ticket? How do you interact? And working with a prominent restaurant in Gainesville, Georgia, training people on staff to recognize when someone has dementia. What do you do? How do you interact with them? How's the service go? We're very pleased about that. As I often say, as I look at where we are, you watch it come in and you watch it go out. So monies that come to Beyond Dementia Coalition from my book, we'll watch it come and watch it go out and know exactly where it's going. And that's beautiful. Thank you, Beyond Dementia Coalition. Thank you very much.
And thanks, Jerry, for sharing that. On our first podcast, it was an introduction to your book, and the focus was on two poems that were, as I understand it, a retrospective view written after you had more or less completed the book, and your journey as a caregiver with Jean through the various stages of her battle with Alzheimer's. So, and it was really both of your battles. Today, we'll be focusing on the subject of caregiving. To me, these poems are filled with emotion and are a lot more visceral, as you were in the throes of the everyday battle when you wrote these. So I just want to make sure, does that sound right to you?
Right on, right in the throes of it.
Okay, glad I get it right. Podcast 2. Let's why don't we start with the reading, the first reading? I think maybe that's a good place to start.
Bruce, is a wonderful place to start because this particular poem is one of the most impactful readings that I believe that are within my book, within the 39 poems. And I'd really like to share it with you because it really helped me turn a corner. It struck me just the other day. I had a revelation. Been thinking about it since. Wow, smacked me right in the face. How did I not see it? It's not about her, but about me. About me. She is sick. She has dementia. She needs my guidance, my assistance, my help. Sure, more now than before. I'm always there. I do it well. Guide, direct, being her friend. Managing the process. Yes, I do those things very well. Very well indeed, until bizarre behavior occurs. Behavior that takes over completely, captivating her being. As a caregiver, I try to monitor what's going on. What's next? Trying to keep up with behavior modifications behavior changes. It's like being out of control in a roller coaster, in a car, every minute, all day. Yet sometimes it's okay, and then that roller coaster again, swerving left, right, up, down, and even sideways, seemingly never coming to a stop. She needs so much more than my just being a manager, so much more than just managing a process. She needs calm, always, regardless of, well, anything. She needs to know that I'm with her all the time, forever. She can't change. She is sick. She has dementia. Dementia will take her wherever that insidious disease pleases. It will take her where it wants to go. It struck me how much I need to change, to be more proactive, must be more sensitive to her behavior. Once I recognize a potential crisis on the horizon, then my emotions have to change. My frustration must change to calm, calmness, body language, supportive, not antagonistic. Subtle stress takes over. A subtle stress I never see coming. It's waiting to strike. The subtle stress manifests itself in hostility. That changing my emotions is hard. It's really hard, especially when she's riding that roller coaster hour after hour. So this is what I need to do. Stay calm. Easier said than done. Be conscious of it. Be conscious of emotions changing. I know I can feel it building. I recognize it, deal with it, get on top of it. Practice like in the old days, getting ready for a ball game or a presentation. Cleansing breaths, deep ones, the best. Practice, go deeper, cleansing breaths. Yesterday, I'd like to think I did better. Not perfect, but better. Getting to my emotions early helped a lot. Deep cleansing breaths, more than I can remember. And I practiced something else. Repeating, and repeating. She is lost, frustrated, and confused. Repeating these words kept me focused, kept me in the game. I know deep in my bones, trust is the key. Trust is the key to our unbending relationship. Without it, we will fall apart. Then what? Our bond is strong, needs to be stronger all the time. I can't let her down. I can't let myself down.
Powerful. I'm going to try to unpack that, right?
Yeah, we need to do that.
So my first observation is, and then I've got a series of questions. So this is just an observation. I try to monitor what's going on. So there seems to be an element of control there. And then it seems like the roller coaster takes over. Dementia will take her wherever that insidious disease pleases.
Yeah.
It will take her where it wants to go. So out of control. But what struck me, first of all, is I had a revelation the other day, and I'm quoting from the
Yes.
poem. Wow, smacked me right in the face. How did I not see it? I've got this caregiving thing all wrong. Woo. So my question, it's been a while since the onset of dementia for Jean. How did you not see it? Now, I don't mean that in an antagonistic way. I'm really
No.
was it denial? Were you confronted by a dramatic change in symptoms? Where hadn't it been possible to, or why hadn't it been possible to see it previously?
Here's what I saw. I saw a very good caregiver, and I mentioned that in my story. A very good caregiver. I did that very well. She had dementia since 2014, and I was writing now. This story is in February, and I started writing my stories in August, 6 months earlier. But what smacked me in the face was I wasn't doing enough. You see, Bruce, I was losing my wife. I was losing her with bizarre behavior. I couldn't keep up with her. She was leaving me. It was important for me to ride the roller coaster with her. I didn't know how to do that. That's what I saw. That was my dilemma. And that's what I was trying to say in the story.
Yeah.
Denial? No, Bruce, I think you mentioned denial.
Yeah.
No, it's beyond denial. You said change of symptoms. The only thing that changed was they came more often and they were longer.
So I do things very well, and it's a follow-on to the bizarre behavior, right?
Yes.
I do things very well until bizarre behavior occurs, completely captivating her. It's like being out of control in a roller coaster car every minute, all day. And dementia will take her wherever that insidious disease pleases. So I've heard this from others as well. And to me, I'm not sure how I would handle it, right, if faced with those circumstances. Did you ever feel that Jean was a danger to herself or others?
No, fortunately, I did not. She was not.
'Cause I've heard that from others. Stoves left on, not necessarily that's bizarre behavior in the same way you experienced it, but stove, somebody cooking, stoves left on,
Yeah.
things that might be dangerous in terms of everyday activities. But
Fortunately, we never experienced that, Bruce.
good, that's a good thing. And did the bizarre behavior ever occur in public?
Of course. We were social people. Let me try and give you two examples of bizarre behavior because I think that's appropriate. And as I talk this through, I'd like those out there listening. What would you do? We're dealing with emotions and we're not really equipped to deal with emotions. And I've taken to a point where I'm a pretty good caregiver, but I cannot understand how to deal with bizarre behavior. First one I call the Target long corduroy dress story. I set the stage for everybody. It's the beginning of July, about July 1st or 2nd. We're getting ready for a July 4th barbecue. We're sitting on our little settee here in our apartment. And Jean looks at me and she says, I don't have anything to wear. I said, okay. And she said, well, two things. One, I don't have any money. And I said, that's okay. We'll take. She said, you'll give me a loan? I said, of course. And she said, I want to buy a long dress, corduroy dress. She said, they're beautiful. I said, okay. Remember now, it's early July in Georgia. It's 94, 95, maybe even 98 outside. Doesn't matter. It's stifling hot. And Jean's talking about a long sleeve corduroy dress. I said, okay, let's go to Target. Oh, let's go. I don't have a car. Will you drive? I said, of course. She said, oh, you're so nice. We get to Target, 100,000 square foot store. We walk the store, no corduroy dress, of course. And I think we're ready to leave. And she says, I want to talk to somebody. I want a dress. I said, okay. So I said, let me try and find a floor supervisor and let me see if she has time. They're busy. Oh, yes, of course. So I found the floor supervisor. I don't know her name. Why do I think it was Monet? And I explained the situation and told her what to say to Jean. And she was wonderful. And she said, Jean, the corduroy dresses are not in yet. They will be in before Christmas. I have Jerry's number. I will call you. You'll be the first one to call. She said, you'll do that? And we walked away and she said, isn't she so nice? That's the corduroy dress Target story. Second one is the Chick-fil-A story. Jean and I would go to Chick-fil-A probably 3, 4, maybe sometimes 5 days a week for lunch. Why? Because they loved her. They connected. Everybody in that place, Chick-fil-A, knew Jean. Jean, this is where we like you to sit. Why don't you sit here? We've reserved it for you. Can you imagine in Chick-fil-A? Let me fill your cup up with more water. Jean loved the nuggets and the soft ice cream on the children's menu, by the way. At this particular day, it was in October. We're getting ready to finish our lunch and getting ready to leave. And she looks at me and says, who are you? I don't know you. I'm meeting my mom here. She stands up, goes to the table next to us with a dad and an 8-year-old little boy there. Says, do you know where my mom is? And they, of course, know what to say. And Jean says, why don't you tell me? And she proceeds to talk to almost everyone at the restaurant. It's filled with moms, dads, kids, young kids, teenagers. And she walks by me as I'm picking up some of the debris here from other people. And she walks past me, walks outside. I think maybe she's going to the car. She walks past the cars to the left, down the aisle to where the cars are picking up their take home. And of course, she disrupts the people and they give away. And they, of course, know Jean. And I remember this thing. She turns to a lady whose window's down, ready to receive her Chick-fil-A. And she says, do you know where my mom is? Stern voice. And the poor lady freaked out. And she walks past me, goes back into the restaurant, past everybody that she had talked to, down past the terminals and back where they make the Chick-fil-A, wrap it up, and that's bizarre behavior. Two examples, and there are many of them. So yes, Bruce, public, you got it.
Yeah. Wow. On the flip side, sounds like you had a certain sense of equanimity about that as you described the experiences. But you also wrote in this poem that subtle stress that you experience manifests itself in hostility.
Yeah.
It struck me just the other day that changing my emotions is hard.
Yes.
Let's talk about the reality that from what you know of the general population of caregivers and what others might be experiencing, do you think your experience is unique, this stress of everyday roller coaster, of the everyday roller coaster? And is there any way someone can prepare for this, or is it unique for everyone and you just need to go with the flow? It sounds like you went with the flow, but tell me about the hostility.
Hostility was there, and that was the issue. I need to curve that in. You see, let's go back to my stories here. And I think it's important as we talk about how I dealt with it. And what I needed to do is I needed to create a calm. I need to turn the corner. I need to get on top of it. I need to get in front of it. I was losing my wife. This is critical. It's too early. I was not ready for that. So I went back to my roots. I went back to playing ball, getting ready for it. I went back to making presentations to create calmness. Playing ball at the foul line, I would always do cleansing breaths. Up at bat, always cleansing breaths before I got into the batter's box. Presentation, I would also talk to myself, stay focused, think of the objective, speak slowly. And I went back to that, and that's what hit me in the face, because I have to do that again. So let me take you through a process, because what I did was recognize that I had to change my approach. I had to be in a situation where I anticipated what was going to happen. I anticipated it. I became someone who was always on, because in the early stages of what that's occurring with that manifesting of that bizarre behavior, unless you're there with it, you can't catch it. I created the need for cleansing breaths, calm down, lost, frustrated, focused. Those are my three words. It kept me focused. And then leading to the ability to recognize that Jean had to be, she steered the ship, that Alzheimer's will take us anywhere it wants to take us. I needed to go with it. Anywhere it would take Jean, I needed to go. She needed to steer it. I needed to guide it and manage it and make sure there were no safety issues involved and deal with it, because it'll come to an end. We just don't know when it'll come to an end. That's how I dealt with it, Bruce. And I felt so much better when that happened. I felt I got my wife back, and I felt re-engaged, and I dealt with a calm after that. And I felt very good about our relationship once again.
Thank you for that, Jerry. It does sound, to some extent, you use the baseball analogy, it does sound like an athletic event to some extent in terms of preparation and how you respond. And I asked that question, and you provided a great answer for the audience, but I asked it in light of the fact that caregivers, we all know the statistics, or you and I know the statistics, but there's a tremendous amount of caregiver burnout. Caregivers with chronic health conditions, caregivers with depression. And it seems almost insurmountable to me. But just let's make the audience aware of that, right? And I think you've done that and built that scenario beautifully for everybody, just to create awareness with our audience. What I'd like to do is move to the second reading today, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time. And we're getting close to the end of the podcast. But reading two is I See Things Today I Just Didn't See. It's on page 93 of your book. Jerry, do you mind reading that?
This is an important reading because I went back often to reread this story when I had a difficult day. And I think you'll feel that as we go through it. I see things today I just didn't see. I wrote a book not too long ago called it Loving Jean. It's about my wife. It's about our family. It's for the girls. But most of all, it's for the grandkids to understand our family. How did it all happen? And quite candidly, to understand how their mom survived. But most of all, I knew it was for me. As I continue rereading my words, I look back now and realize it's as if that book was a demarcation in our lives, because after I wrote that book, our lives changed because Jean changed. I truly never appreciated the things that I see today. To see her smile deep down, to see her smile deep down to her soul, to see her happy deep in, to see her smile and tap her toe and keep pace to Johnny Cash or Marcus Mumford, to see her lick her spoon and then her fingers with nothing left in the ice cream bowl. And the little thief, seeing her eyes pop when I find the napkin just pocketed from the luncheon place. And then to the sheepish look, she says to me, "It's mine. It's mine." But I really see it today, really see the happiness, really see the joy, really get so much pleasure out of the little things she does. I enjoy now the little things she does. I appreciate them. Like putting her socks on backwards, or when her bottoms become her top, or her top becomes her bottoms. Or when she says, "Do not like this," but she chose it and loved it anyway. I smile at the frustration and try to help, but most of the time, sometimes she growls, sometimes it's not so helpful, and sometimes it's a stalemate. Is it because I care more? I don't think so. Maybe I care in a different way. Maybe it's the caregiver's way, but I like it. More moving, more hugs, more touching the cheek. Sometimes it makes the bizarre behavior days more manageable. I'm so pleased for this time, so grateful. It doesn't matter that she doesn't know me. It doesn't matter when she says, "Do you have a girlfriend?" and I tell her, "You," and she laughs. It doesn't matter when I ask her, "Why is she so cute?" and she smiles back and says, "And I don't know, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. None of it matters. What matters is I'm a friend. I am needed, and she depends on me, and what more could I ask for?" And I think that's an important reading, Bruce, because again, when I finish that reading and I come back, it makes me recognize that I fell in love with my wife all over again. And I have to put things in perspective. During the dark days, the dark times, I would always come back and read this poem and always smile.
Yeah. At the beginning of this poem, you were talking about your book, Loving Jean.
Right.
It was written before Jean's Alzheimer's diagnosis. And as you wrote 24/7, so it's about my wife, it's about our family, it's for the girls, and most of all, it's for the grandkids. You were referring to Loving Jean. As you wrote 24/7, did you share your thoughts as so poignantly reflected in this poem about Loving Jean? Did you reflect or share your thoughts with the kids and the grandkids and the family with regard to what you were going through and as you wrote 24/7? Did you confide in others? Were you able to reflect with others as things progressed?
Our family is a tight family, 3 daughters, 6 grandchildren. And the stories that I wrote, by the way, Loving Jean was the last of a trilogy that I wrote starting back in 2010 about our family. And of course, I shared all of our stories. I wanted our children, our grandkids to know about Jean and I. I wanted our grandkids to be in a situation where someone said, "Who is that?" And my granddaughter would say, "Well, that's my mother's mother, and let me tell you about her." So that's what we did, and I wrote 3. I shared everything during Christmas. Someone I remember saying, "Oh, it's another book." And basically, I wrote 5 in total, and then Loving Jean. So we shared everything, and it was just natural to do that.
Yeah. And so as Jean went through her Alzheimer's journey, as you accompanied her, did you share those thoughts about what you were going through with the kids as well?
Of course,
Okay.
of course.
Okay.
Uh,
The- the-
critically, critically important to share.
Well, and the reason I asked the question, same reading. It's about my wife, it's about our family, but from a little different angle. And this is where it gets a little emotional for me, and I bring in my personal experience. So forgive me if I get a little verklempt here. But my grandfather had dementia. We didn't know to call it dementia at that time, right? It was called senility. This is
Right.
back in the 60s and the 70s. That's how old I am. So he ultimately came to live with us after my grandmother had passed away. And I remember him wandering through the house at 2 a.m, calling out in a haunting voice for Alice, which was my grandmother's name. And I remember him having accidents, and I put accidents in quotes, while my parents were out. And I was kind of taking care of him. I had to clean up. And I remember the years leading up to these moments where I knew something was wrong, but no one shared it with me or with us. I had 2 siblings. We didn't understand what was happening. Nobody communicated with us, and I never fully understood until later in life what had happened. And I resented that in retrospect. And then my mother going through her battle with dementia and in denial until it was too late. Are we more aware now as a population? And what would you recommend as we wind this podcast up, about sharing a situation like you and Jean experienced with the grandkids, children, friends, and family? What would you, or did you tell them real time? If you could share that with us.
First, Bruce, thank you for sharing your story. We all have stories, and we reflect on them. Well, there's a lot more out and a lot more available now, but people are only aware if they make themselves aware. Sharing information is critically important with everyone. And as someone goes through this process that I went through, you have to have a team around you, people that you confide in. It's particularly so thankful for a lady that I work with, Kristen, who I mentioned last week, I think. And Kristen was a senior advisor, and I'd share all the poetry with her. And we'd go through it almost line by line. Why did you do that? Why did you not do that? What do you think Jean was doing? Why? What do you think how do you deal with this situation? I remember specifically talking about the situation with Target, for example. You got to share. If you're the lead caregiver, you got to be the lead caregiver. You got to let them in, because you got to do it one time or another. Take the lead and protect your loved one in any kind of interaction. But you're the lead, and they got to know. And we would do it regularly. We talk regularly. We talk regularly on the phone. I would come back from the community Jean was in, and always text them with a picture how Jean was doing today, how she's walking, what about her pills, what's going on. Absolutely, they got to be involved. If not, you're just putting it off. It's part of denial, and that's a shame.
Yeah, and which often leads to guilt, and we can talk about that at some point in time. Jerry, as always, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to continuing this series with you, and I thank our audience for taking the time to listen.
Yes, and for our audience, the next podcast, which I look forward to also, Bruce, we're talking about trust for a caregiver. Some of the things we talked about a little bit today, but we'll be amplifying that. And thanks, Bruce. I appreciate your time, and thank the audience for listening. And everybody have a good one.
Take care. Bye.